Hello, my name is Victoria, and welcome to my video on 1850s petticoats and how to starch them. Like any era, having the proper undergarments is the key to achieving the right silhouette. In the 1850s and mid-Victorian era, there are three common petticoats that they typically wore. First layer is the corded petticoat. This petticoat creates the structure and the support for the undergarments. It's made up of all these tiny little cords, which I used yarn for, sandwiched in between two layers of fabric. When it's starched, it gives a really good, strong base to build off of. The next petticoat is the flounced petticoat. It's got 3 tiers of ruffles. This one adds the volume. It adds the fluff and really builds the body out over the structured petticoat. Then the next layer is the over petticoat. This one's main function is to smooth out the silhouette, not have like lumps from the ruffles. So this one is a very fancy one that I sewed based on an existent garment in the Met's collection. It's got a lot of tucks and it's quite fancy, but they didn't always have to be this fancy. Let me show you my new one. This one is just a much simpler one, although it's still a little fancy, couldn't help myself. It's got several rows of tucks, but you could just have a couple rows. Right now these are very floppy, and I'll show you what they look like underneath my clothes. They really don't give much support at all, so I need to starch them. So why do we even bother starching? Well, it keeps your clothes cleaner, which is very important. You can see how many layers these were. If you didn't have a washing machine, that's a lot of work. So you want to do everything you can to keep them as clean as possible for as long as possible. Starching helps repel the dirt, and you can kind of just like brush it off. It doesn't get in there as easily. Starching also gives it the shape that you need. As you can see, the corded petticoat, it does have more structure than like nothing, as you can see up here where it's not corded. But this really doesn't hold anything up. Back in the day, they would use a potato starch or a corn starch, but I just use a modern version because, I don't know, I guess I'm lazy right now, but someday I'll make my own starch from scratch. So the starch that I use is this Stayflow, whatever you want to call it. I got it at my local IGA. They sell it on Amazon, but it's 3 times more expensive on Amazon as I found it in my local store, so check your local store. I got 2 jugs. I don't know why they still sell it. I guess people still starch their clothes, maybe? It says that it's great for blue jeans. I don't know what starched blue jeans are like, or if I would want to wear them. I don't think so. But I want my petticoats to be as starched as possible with a lot of strength, so I'm going to use straight starch. This is a corn-based starch, but it has a lot of other chemicals in it. But first step is to wet my petticoats. So I'm going to go put them, you want to make sure you have clean petticoats. I washed these yesterday, but I'm going to go put them in for a quick spin cycle to get them nice and damp, but not soaked. So I'll see you in a few. To do your starching, you're going to need a container to pour it into. I like to use a 5-gallon bucket. Make sure it's clean first, though. I always do my starching outside because then I can make a mess and it doesn't matter. Plus I live in a tiny house and there's not any room to hang up my petticoats to dry. I know some people do it in their bathrooms, so if you have a large bathroom you can do that if you want. But I always just try to do it outside in the summertime or late fall, so then I can hang them up to dry in the sun. Again, I'm just using straight starch here, but if you don't want your petticoats as starched as I do, then feel free to dilute it with some water. There's some ratios written on the bottles depending on what you're doing. Then you're just going to grab your damp petticoat and stick it into the starch. The starch bothers some people's skin, so feel free to wear gloves for this. It's really slimy and kind of gross feeling, so you're going to want to be able to wash your hands often. sure to move your petticoat around in the starch, open it up a little, make sure there aren't any spots that don't have any starch. Once you've done that some, it's time to start squeezing out the excess. It takes quite a while to squeeze out all the excess starch out of the petticoat. It also takes a good bit of hand strength. But just keep squeezing it until you have it stop coming out. Then you're going to want to open it up, double check you didn't miss any spots, make sure everything is covered well with the starch. Here's a trick I learned from my friend Nancy. Grab a big trash can, flip it upside down, and throw your corded petticoat over it. As it dries, it'll keep the round shape of the trash can. If you want, you can put a plastic bag over it if you're worried about it being dirty and making your petticoat dirty, or just use a clean one. I start with the corded petticoat because it uses a lot of starch. Then I move on to another heavy starch using petticoat, the flounce petticoat. I save the ones that use the least for later, such as the two over petticoats. The process is pretty much the same for the rest of the petticoats. Just stick it in, make sure you've got it all saturated with the starch. The flounce takes a bit more because there's so many layers. Then squeeze them out and hang them up. It really is a lot of squeezing. Once you've got them all starched and hung up, just go ahead and give them a once over and make sure there's not dirt or hairs or bits of leaves on them. Pick them off, kind of spread them out as much as you can. It's pretty impossible to do because they hang straight down, but just give them a little fluff. To do these 4 petticoats, I used exactly 2 jugs of starch. Once you've got them hung up, go ahead and leave them to dry. Time will vary depending on the weather you have outside. Here are my petticoats now that they've been starched. It's a couple days later. I let them sit out in the sun for a while. I moved them off the clothesline and laid them out in the sun for a while. But you can see here now they're pretty stiff. The trash can isn't under that corded one anymore. It's over here, covered in starch. But you can see the corded one is really keeping its shape, which is what I want. It is solid. These other ones are quite stiff too, but this is very wrinkled. They're all quite wrinkled, so now it's time to iron them. Now it's time to do some ironing. It's going to take a bit of work. So I've got my ironing board where I can sit on the sofa, and I'll probably wind up watching a show while I'm doing this, but first I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So I've got my simple over petticoat here. I'm going to start with the easiest one because it was on top of the pile. Got my iron, my older iron, and I've got a spray bottle. So you can see it's quite stiff, quite rough. There's some areas that are stuck together. I just pull them apart. But to do this, some people don't let their petticoats dry all the way before ironing them, but I just don't really have anywhere to have damp petticoats staying around, so I let them dry all the way. Plus, then I can do it over the course of several days. So, I'm gonna spray my petticoat with a little water and just iron. So can you see it's getting much smoother now? Just what we want. Just gonna dampen it with the water. And I'll just keep going. These petticoats are quite wide, so it's gonna take a good while. Can really see the difference here. Now it's nice and smooth, still stiff. And I'm just gonna go the whole thing. I'll probably start with the bottom and work my way up. later and I'm lost in a backlight, but I have finished ironing the first petticoat. See how nice and smooth it looks? It looks great. It went on forever because the circumference of these petticoats is about 120 inches. So that's a lot of feet. Now I'm going to go get the flounced one. I'll do that next. It'll probably take the longest because I have to iron each individual flounce and the fabric underneath that they're sewn in. It'll be a while. I had to fill up my iron once and used up almost 2 irons worth of water. So the flounce probably take 3 hours and 6 ironfuls of water. We'll see. When I got to the flounce, I had to use both my hands to hold it onto the ironing board. So I pretty much gave up on the spray bottle and just used the water that was in my iron and the steam function on my iron. As you can see, there's a lot of material in the flounced petticoat. It's easy to get lost in it and forget where you've ironed and where you haven't, but luckily you can really tell the difference. So I just kept ironing and ironing some more. And wouldn't you know it, but I did more ironing. There's no trash can in here anymore. Just a border collie. What you doing, bro? And once I finished the flounce petticoat, I got to move on to the quarter petticoat. And it involved more ironing. I also ironed my fancy over petticoat, but I didn't record it because who wants to watch me iron for 20 hours? You can probably use your imagination to guess what it looked like. And now the big reveal. On the left you'll see my outfit with petticoats that have not been starched. On the right, there they are, freshly starched, adding lovely volume and a nice fluff as I move around. On the left, my skirt is dragging on the ground, but on the right, it's held up at just the right length. Thanks for joining me on this thrilling adventure. Please subscribe and leave me a comment. Have you ever starched your clothes? Do you want to? Let me know. Start with the easiest petticoat, because Brand, no one's here. I'm just talking to the video. You want to go outside?